the Music Theory Lady. Hi guys, welcome back to the Music Theory Lady. Last time we talked about key signatures and how to draw them properly. Today we're going to learn how to read key signatures so that if you see a key signature, you know exactly what major key it is without having to refer back to your notes. There's a few tips that you can do here. First off, if you're somebody who already knew key signatures or has been in a class where they've really demanded that you memorize your key signatures so that you know that 2 sharps is the key of D and 5 flats is the key of D flat and so on, that's fine. That's totally fine if you just have it straight up memorized, but I really want to teach you how to read key signatures so that you don't necessarily have to memorize them to be able to know what you're looking at. So we're going to start with sharp since that's what we started with last time. The trick to reading sharp keys is to find the last sharp. So in the key of G, it's just 1 sharp. In the key of D, it would be this sharp. So we're talking about the sharp that's the furthest to the right. So in A, it would be this sharp. In E, it would be that sharp, so on and so forth. So you're going to find that last sharp, and then you're going to find that sharp on the piano. So for instance, in the key of G, the last sharp is F sharp, so I'm going to find F sharp on the piano. And then you're going to move up 1/2 step on the piano. And that key that you land on, that piano key, is the major key name that you're looking at. So if we go up 1/2 step from F sharp, we land on G, it's the key of G. In the key of D, the last sharp is C sharp. So find a C sharp on your piano, go up 1/2 step, and it's the key of D. In this one, G sharp is my last sharp. So here's G sharp, go up 1/2 step, and it's A, so it's the key of A major. So you always find the last sharp and go up 1/2 step. Notice that every single time that I'm finding a sharp, for instance here, this is D sharp, I'm not saying the last sharp is D, I'm saying the last sharp is D sharp, because I have students every year who say, oh, it's the last sharp is D. So here's D, and I'm going to go up 1/2 step, and they try and call it either the key of D sharp or E flat. And as you can tell, it's neither of those keys. So you have to find the last sharp. So I make my students actually say that word out loud, D sharp. Find D sharp on the piano, go up 1/2 step, and it's the key of E. Here's B, last sharp is A sharp. Find A sharp on the piano, go up 1/2 step, it's the key of B. These two get a little bit tricky. The last sharp here is E sharp. If you notice on my piano, I don't have an E sharp, but we've talked about this before. E sharp is another name for F. So if you're trying to look on the piano for E sharp, you have to actually stick your finger or pencil here and then go up the 1/2 step. So we're actually going to be on a white key there, moving to a black key, and that's why our key name is F sharp. And here our last sharp is B sharp, same situation, there is no B sharp except for C is also B sharp. So there's my last sharp, go up 1/2 step, and it's the key of C sharp. For flats, it's so much easier. You don't even need a piano. For flats, it is the second to last flat is the key name. So we'll start over here this time. My second to last flat would be this flat right here or this flat right here. That second to last flat is C flat, and your key is C flat. For this one, my second to last flat is G flat. I'm in the key of G flat. Second to last flat here is D flat, and I'm in the key of D flat. So again, I'm really particular with my students about making sure they say not just the letter, but the letter and the accidental, so that they don't call this the key of D, it's the key of D flat. Here, my second to last flat is A flat, so that's the key of A flat. Second to last flat is E flat, so it's the key of E flat. Second to last flat is B flat, so it's the key of B flat. And then we come to this one. F doesn't actually fit into this rule, unfortunately. You just sort of have to remember that F is 1 flat. I have students in the past who, when they're trying to figure out the last flat or the second to last flat, they look here and go, oh, there is no second to last flat, so it must just be that one. It must be the key of B flat. Not true. There is no second to last flat, so it doesn't work. So this is where normally I would tell my students, rather obnoxiously, 1 flat is the key of F, and F has 1 flat. And so I just try to drill that into their brains, because really that rule works well for flat keys, except for F, and so you just sort of, that is one you really do need to memorize. And then of course the only one we haven't talked about with the sharp keys and the flat keys would be the key of C, which I said this last time, but if you see no sharps or flats, it's the key of C. So that should help you kind of be able to read those key signatures, but then we also have to be able to know how to build key signatures, again, without our previous notes and work that we've done before. So that is where I use a line chart. Some of you use the circle of fifths. If you've been taught the circle of fifths, that's great. It's a great system. I have no issues against it. I will say I was never really taught the circle of fifths in the process of learning key signatures. It's been run across my desk in a textbook in one way or another during my schooling, but in terms of actually learning my keys, I don't remember the circle of fifths actually being used as a device to memorize them or be able to know how to write them. So I actually use a chart that was taught to me by a student from quite a few years ago, and it was taught to him by his piano teacher, and so it's kind of gotten passed through all these different people. But it's what I call the line chart. So it's kind of like taking the circle of fifths, which, by the way, here's a circle of fifths. I'll put a picture up here for you. It's like taking that circle of fifths and sort of breaking it at one point and just taking those ends out and making it into one big line. So I'm going to show you how to draw that line here. Okay, so we're just going to draw a really long line. In the center, I'm going to put a hash mark. And then I'm going to put 7 hash marks on either side of that line. So okay. This very center one is going to be 0. And then we're going to count out from there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On this side, we're going to count going backwards. So we'll start with 1 here and go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Something else you need to build this line chart is you need the order of sharps, which if you remember is fat, cats, go, down, alleys, eating, birds, and then we're going to add a period for this. So this, as the order of sharps as it is, doesn't really apply to this. It's really more just we're going to use that same pattern. And these numbers are indicating how many sharps or flats are in the key. So if I have 0 sharps or flats, hopefully that's one you can memorize and know really easily. The key of C has 0 sharps or flats. And then we're going to just fill in this pattern. So what comes before C? F. What's after C? G, D, alleys, eating, birds. And if you remember, we put a period. And the reason we put a period is because this entire set right here is the only set that we're going to have that doesn't have accidentals in the name. Then we're going to restart that set, and we're going to add, on this side will be the sharp keys, and on this side will be the flat keys. So now, every time that we add a letter outside of this original set, we're going to add the appropriate accidental. So this one's going to be F sharp. This one's going to be C sharp. Now, if you remember, 0 sharps or flats is a C major. 7 sharps was C sharp. 7 flats was C flat. So we're going to start with C on this side again. But then we're going to just continue in our pattern. So we're going to do G. We're going to add the flat. After G was D. Add the flat. After D is A. Add the flat, after A is E, add the flat, and after E is B flat. So now I have a really quick line chart that shows me that C is 0 sharps or flats, G has 1 sharp, D has 2 sharps, A has 3 sharps, E has 4 sharps, and I can use this to build my key signatures. So for instance, let's say my teacher is asking me, I know I've got them all up here, pretend like they're not all up there. If my teacher is asking me to build the key signature of E major, I can look at my chart, find where I see E by itself without a flat or a sharp. Oh, here it is. And it has 4 sharps in it. And then if I know my order of sharps, I can fill in F, C, G, D. And I can do the same thing down here. F, C, G, D. So at this point, everything that we talked about in that first video when it came to the placement on the staff and the order of the sharps and the order of flats, that really needs to be memorized going forward, but you should be able to read key signatures without having any of that memorized. When it comes to writing key signatures, you're going to have your order of sharps and flats known. You're going to have to know exactly the placement on the staff. But if you have the line chart, you don't necessarily have to memorize how many sharps and flats are in each key signature unless you absolutely want to. Let's do another example. Let's say G flat. My teacher wants me to draw G flat. So I'm going to look at my line chart and find G flat. Oh, here it is. 6 flats. So I'm just going to fill in the first 6 flats that I know. B, E, A, D, G, C. Careful to watch my clarity. B. Talking and writing at the same time does not work. B, E, A, D, G, C. And then I can also always go back and check my work with reading my key signatures like we talked about. So I can go back and look, okay, is my last sharp a half step down from my key name? My last sharp here is D sharp. D sharp up a half step is the key of E. Yay! And then G flat is my second to last flat, G flat. Yes, it is, so that's correct. So when it comes to writing key signatures, you do have to have a little bit more skill when it comes to reading key signatures. There's those two quick rules that can help you read those key signatures really quickly as you go through. So hopefully this helped you figure out how to read and write key signatures. Like I said, if circle of fifths works for you, go for circle of fifths. But if this line chart helped you understand, I hope that that's something that you can easily write down, especially for my students. It's something maybe you can easily write on tests or quizzes in the future if you need a quick reference to figure out key signatures as you go. All right, that's it today, you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.